Welcome to the Monopoly Mindset, the podcast where we uncover the strategies to build your real estate portfolio one property at a time.
We're your hosts, Tyler and Tommy, here to share our story of playing real-life Monopoly.
Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, this is your go-to resource for mastering the real estate game.
So grab your board, roll the dice, and let's buy Boardwalk together. Welcome back to the Monopoly Mindset, episode 47. If you listened to last week, we had my brother Steve on, which was part 1, and today we're going to finish up with part 2. So let's jump into it. Yeah, so back to my question. Should everybody that can afford it, or let's say has the down payment, buy a primary residence?
I like this question, and also I have joked before, and me and Ty have gotten in arguments about this, and I've literally said buying a primary residence is stupid. And I'm going to probably get a ton of hate being on a real estate podcast. I actually don't think that's more of a joke. Like, I'm not against it. I will admit it. I still rent, and I've been out of college for 9 years now. It's almost 10 years. Like, I still rent. I don't own a house. It's not something I'm proud of. I don't like, that's not my plan, I guess is what I'm saying. But there's reasons for that. One of the reasons is I moved away from home after college. I live in Miami right now. So there's 2 reasons why I haven't bought. One is because I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I know that's probably a trap, right? Because now I've been here for 9 years, and if I would have bought...
So you've been here for a while, so...
But the bigger reason is, especially after COVID, Miami is a really interesting area that the real estate has skyrocketed where I live. And I have numbers that I can give that I can talk about. I like talking about this. So you guys, I would actually like to hear your guys' feedback on this.
Can you give us the numbers of if you would have bought 9 years ago? Because that feels credible in tying on his argument against you.
I do think about this, but I also think like when I was, so this is also a trap to say like, oh, I should have bought 9 years ago. 9 years ago was my first year out of college.
You had a lot of things going on. You didn't even know how long you were going to be there. Specifically at that point, you would have never guessed that you would have been there.
No, even from a financial, like purely from a number perspective, I have $0. And actually, really,
yeah, you couldn't.
If you want to know something funny, like I was looking back then to look at an apartment for like $90,000, but I couldn't even afford the down. I mean, technically I probably could have afforded a 5%. No, to be honest, probably not. Like with the closing costs and everything, like I was just out of college. Like I had $0. Like I told you, I think at the beginning of the pod, I said, I put $5,000 into my 401k that year. Like, my rent coming out, let me put it this way. My rent coming out, I do remember this, was $600. So I was paying $600 a month with roommates. But anyway, my current situation now, and I think I have a little bit of a deal because I have a good relationship with my landlord. I like to brag to Ty, and he said like, good job, I'm just making my landlord money. But I brag to Ty that like I've lived at my current house for I think 4 years, and I probably talk to my landlord like once a year, and almost nothing has broken. I said to Ty, I was like, dude, my landlord in the last 4 years, he's probably spent at least on repairs like under $1,000. We had to get a new washer, which was $400, and but anyway, because of that, like he doesn't raise rent on us. So right now my rent is $2,300 a month, which I know depending on where you're from could sound like a lot or a little, but like definitely in Miami, it's not that bad. It's a 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot townhouse. So we're paying $2,300. It's been $2,300 for 3 years now. And then I pay some of my utilities. So let's just say with gas and electric and water, it's actually $2,500, which is pretty accurate. $2,600. They're all about $100. So $2,600. The thing is, my neighbor just sold the exact house I live in. I think it was like an extra 100 square feet because it was a corner lot. They sold their house for $490K. And I also know that this was at the height of the interest rates. And I also know that in Florida, Tommy, I don't know if you have this, but in South Florida, HOAs are huge. And HOAs down here cost anywhere between even when I started looking again, like 400, 500, and 600 is like not out of the ordinary. I don't know how much mine is. I can look on Zillow, but it's definitely 300 or 400.
HOAs and also insurance in Florida is absolutely ridiculous because of hurricanes
And taxes, yeah.
compared to where, yeah. So I will say this because this was like I guess I've always trying to like convince you to look. You're in a market, and I kind of changed my mind a little bit because me and Tommy do say like if you're gonna be somewhere, let's just say 3 years or even 1 year because you could rent it out when you leave. But like me and Tommy, we do basically say everyone should buy a house if they can afford it. You are in a market that it would be way more expensive to purchase on year one for sure. And I looked it up and it was like Fort Lauderdale, Miami. It is one of the places where it's way more expensive to purchase than to rent. To your point, if you bought, let's say you bought for $490, your mortgage is $4,000, or probably more than that with HOA and insurance, versus the $2,300. But all that aside, if you wait 10 years, your rent goes up. And I know you say he doesn't raise it, but like you're gonna have kids, you're gonna need a 4-bedroom. What's the rent gonna be that when you have to leave, your landlord could kick you out tomorrow, let's just say.
Yeah.
Whatever, 60 days. Or you have 2 kids and you need a 3 or 4-bedroom, your rent's going up to $4,500 if you are still in that area. What's that going to look like in 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have zero equity in 10 years, versus if you would have bought and then let's just say 10 years as an example, you've paid your loan down, you could refinance at a lower rate, you have equity. That's just that would be the real estate argument.
Yeah, but I can do this
I want to give Steve credit though, because like, not to like Steve's in a really good spot in the sense that he is in an expensive market. So like Fort Lauderdale, Miami, I think San Diego and New York, those are like the 3 top markets where sometimes it's tougher to buy and it's almost better to rent. But our arguments towards people that should buy are typically people that aren't investing in the stock market, right? Steve's already said that he's investing almost 50% of his income into the stock market. So if you're renting, affording 2 vacations to Europe a year, and then also investing 50% of your income because you're living frugally, I think Steve's doing a lot of the right things.
Well, here's another thing, that everything has an opportunity cost. And the thing that you said earlier about like my first thought is like, oh, I could have invested that. That's exactly where my mind just went. So let me put it this way. I like what you were saying, Ty, and I heard everything you said, where you said after 10 years, you'd have 0% equity in a house, which is true. But the opportunity cost, would you guys say with the numbers I just gave you, and I know you would never be able to do it in your head, but when I did the numbers, I was thinking it would be roughly $5,000 a month to buy a $500,000 house. If you include that our HOAs and taxes and everything are.
Oh, in Florida, yeah.
So $5,000 a month. So I just did this
I have a $500,000 house and my mortgage is $2,700.
But that includes HOA,
mortgage,
taxes,
or that's
insurance.
That's mortgage, taxes, insurance. My HOA is significantly cheaper. It's about $50 a month.
But what's your interest rate?
Add on 5. I did get a 5%. So
yeah,
it's before
I was looking back when it
was
up. 8. But I basically did the math, and it came out to $5,000.
Yeah, well, 8%. Well, 8%. Yeah, that's extremely different. But even at 6.5%, I think you're going to be cheaper than $5,000 now.
But so if it was $5,000, and I'll even do it for $4,000 too. But if it was $5,000, and right now I'm paying 25 or 26, let's say I'm able to then invest if I don't buy the house, I can invest that extra $2,400 a month in the market. And I just did it right now because everyone's probably done this investment calculator, maybe not, but like I just brought it up. Over 10 years, if I was investing,
I use the same one, every amortization calculator.
Yeah, but if I was investing $2,400 every month for the next 10 years, yes, I would have 0 equity in the house. But if I was getting a 9% return, I'd have $455,000 in a brokerage account. So like, yes, like and this isn't even me arguing, because you're absolutely right that like, the one thing that you've said to me, Ty, which sticks the most, and I think the biggest point for this is that when you get a 30-year mortgage and when you buy a house, you're locked in for 30 years at that rate, and rent usually goes up. That is something that's significant, where like if I were to buy, like part of the flaw in my thinking is that I'm just assuming rent's going to kind of be around the same for the next 30 years, and it's definitely not. So like over
even
time,
in your example, you just said the next 10 years,
you're right.
If I just invested the next 2,500, well, there's a chance that 5,000 stays the same, and you're 20. I mean, again, you have a good relationship with this landlord. Maybe in this scenario it doesn't, but it's tough when you do the ifs and buts. You never really know. But in reality, it probably goes up 3%. So you're closer to 26, 27,
Yeah.
2,800, not investing the full 25, but maybe you're getting more increases at work as well. So it,
One
I
more
And
think the
to
biggest
thing.
point,
Tommy's point, you could have afforded a house in 2019, so you would have bought for you. I think your landlord bought your house for 170 in
He
2016.
told me something like
So,
that. Yeah.
so let's just say in 2019 you bought it for 220. Now you'd have 240,000 in equity or whatever. I mean, but I know
well, tell me,
that's
wait,
COVID
tell me,
appreciation.
but tell me, Ty, what would that payment have been?
Yeah, it would have
A
probably been
3%
less than
rate,
what I'm paying right now.
it would have been like 15 or
Yeah, for sure, it would have
1,600,
been. But I
and it would
mean,
have been locked in. So there's,
2020 hindsight, but also I want to say too, like I'm not against buying a house, and even in my strategy isn't to rent forever. My strategy was to rent at the rate that I feel like is a good deal right now, especially in South Florida, invest the difference. And now I have enough invested that when I want to buy, which if it's next year or 5 years or 10 years, like I will be very comfortable putting a down payment down. And that was what I told myself, let's say 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm actually happy that that's where I'm at. Where like, eventually I'm going to move out of South Florida and we probably will be looking to buy a house. Um, and I'm going to be able to do that now because I was able to rent in a high cost of living area and invest the difference.
yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like you're in a certain market that makes the argument a little bit better for you.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's always going to be different counter arguments, and like even the $2,000, like to me, like you spent 2 grand, and let's just say it was over, the 10 years, right? Like that's a lot of money that you're spending just going towards rent. That's not going towards anything. If you had a mortgage, it's going a little bit more towards principal and loan pay down, and maybe you're not getting all of that because it's going to interest, but it's going to something versus
Yeah.
nothing. But a question I had for you, I actually just listened to a podcast on Coach Carson. Coach Carson, he's a real estate investor, and there's another guy, Ben Vidovich, who lives out in one of those expensive areas in the Bay Area out in San Francisco. And so he's doing exactly what you're doing, and he's renting, and he's actually became a real estate investor. He teaches finances, and he started buying property in Indiana, where it's a lot less expensive to buy houses, and he's buying houses for like under 100,000, under 120, under 150 for the most part. He's fixing them up. He built a whole team out there. He's got property managers that handle a lot of it. He still obviously has a little bit of stress from owning real estate and like having to do stuff. So I was just curious if that was ever anything that's crossed your mind, is like just being, an investor in certain markets that do make sense.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about right now is potentially buying a primary in North Carolina when you move, which I think is still fair. And I would say maybe you should do that because you'll probably be there for a long time next to, most of your family. But what about investing outside of, could you ever see yourself taking a little bit out of your 401k allotment and buying in like a cheaper real estate investing market where you can get better returns?
So I would say right now, I was about to say yes, 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 but when you brought up the 401k, which I know is like your favorite thing, yes, I'm definitely interested in buying real estate. I'm not against it, and it is something especially following you guys, talk to Ty like every day. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in. Now, when you said your last sentence where you said, and pulling from your 401k, I mean, at least right now, I don't have any interest in pulling from my 401k.
Not pull it. He means like lower your allocation
Oh.
and set some of that
Yeah, I
aside.
mean, like instead of
Yeah.
putting 20% into your 401k, do you drop it to 10%, but then you save that extra 10 and use that to potentially invest in real estate, or just
I
bump
think
up?
so.
Yeah,
I could get there. I'm just a numbers guy. So, I mean, if I do it a few times without doing that and then I like what's happening, then yeah, I could see.
Well, and you're also in a position where you do get to a point in your 401k where you're putting in 25 grand a year, but your gains are making you 100 grand
Yes.
a year. And
Yep.
so you get to a point where you go, wait, if I keep putting in 25 grand, it's only going to go from 7 million to 8 million, and I'm totally fine with 7 million. So
Yeah, I mean, the
I can
math
bring
is
it back
there.
down.
That's like Coast
Right.
Fire. And we didn't bring up like fire too much, but that's what they call Coast Fires. Like you invest so much early on, and let's say you can invest Like if you do the math, let's say you could invest 500,000 by the time you're 35 or 40 or whatever. Then you could do the math and be like, okay, I could actually kind of stop investing right now.
Yeah.
And
Graham just said he looked it up. The statistical age to start he said like start spending money and invest less is 42. It's like based on life expectancy and compound interest. He basically was like, because everyone that goes on there, like they're like, dude, you need to relax and spend more money. He said he spends 1% of his net worth a year. And he was like, well, I'm only like 35 and the statistical age is 42 of when you can start to coast. So
yeah, I'm not that crazy with it, but I do, yeah, I'm not that crazy with it.
Have you ran those numbers?
Sorry?
Have you ran that like projection of like your 401k, and if you keep putting in, the $24,000 per year,
I've
like where you'll be?
Yeah, I've ran the numbers of where I'll be at 50, 55, and 60, and I just don't. So early, like where I'm at a point where now what has consumed a lot of my thought when I think about investing and time, where you guys might be thinking about real estate, I'm trying to understand or think about how I want to retire, because I think that makes a huge difference. For example, if I were to continue living frugally and having cheap hobbies, not planning on doing very much in retirement, I think you can live on a very low amount of money, right? But I don't know if I necessarily want that. Like, I like traveling. I like traveling to like across the sea, like overseas and stuff. Like, I like big trips, which are not cheap. So that's what I think about. Is like, if I were just to throw out throw out a number, if I had $5 million when I was 50, would I want to retire? That's a question, right? Or would I want to keep going till I was 55 and then have, adding 5 extra years at that point adds a lot. Like, almost, if you're contributing still, you'd be doubling. So it's like 10 million at 55. Those are just
I think
rough
it's also
numbers.
it also might be a little bit hard to conceptualize inflation over 30 years because if you live on 200 grand a year today, you'll need 400 grand in 30 years. Cause I think inflation did double over 30 years, right? Or like since 2002. So actually less than 30 years. So yeah, whatever you would live on today to have that same exact lifestyle, you'll need double that in 30 years. And then that number for you would be 4% of your net worth. So 10 million gives you 400K a year. And so I actually ran the calculation for compound interest. So if you max out your 401k from 30 to 65, now this ChatGPT, it doesn't raise the max. So it's 23,000 every year. At 10%, you'll have 6.2 million. But I know you started way before 30. And one thing we didn't touch on is your company match is insane. So
yeah, I get
that's on top of the max, right? So like you can contribute 23,000. Your company can match up to 23,000.
No, there's different rules for that. There's a total. So my match is 11%, which is just nice. But
yeah, it's insane.
But to your point, Ty, there's a total contribution to a 401k, and I haven't looked it up because I'm not close to it, but it's in the 60s or 70s, or at least last time I looked, which was a couple years ago.
I know there's like a super backdoor Roth, which sounds like a cartoon name, but like at least I know business owners can put in like 70 grand or something.
There is a number where there's like it's right now it says 72,000. Meaning that's what your but I mean that would mean, just to do that math, like if I was putting in 24, that would mean my company would have to be putting in, what is the math, like almost 50 grand, which I don't make that much.
If you're an employee for your own business and your business is that's where like entrepreneurship gives you so many options, and we could keep going forever, but I don't really have anything else. Do you have any questions for us?
I did actually write down some questions, but I know we're running out of time, and I was trying to think if there's anything else. Let me see what I wrote. I mean, do we have time for some questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
For it.
All right. These are just a few. But first, who is your favorite Eagles player of all time, not current? Well, it could be current, but. And also we have some moves I saw recently because it's free agency right now.
just signed Goddard back. Let's
Yeah.
go, baby.
But Tommy, who's your
I got
favorite?
that jersey when we lost, day after we lost to San Francisco. I thought I was never gonna get to wear it. Go ahead, Tommy. Favorite Eagles player?
Dude, my favorite Eagles player of all time. It's a very tough question to answer. And I think there's a lot of recency bias because, I mean, I'll maybe go Zach Ertz. I love Zach Ertz a lot. He played tight end. I'll go with Zach. He got us our first Super Bowl, beat the Patriots because of that touchdown catch. I'm a tight end guy.
I don't even know if you'd count him as an Eagle, but my original thought was T.O.
Vick. Oh.
No, T.O. was one of my first thoughts too, Ty. So that's actually, it's a good one, which is crazy.
Vick,
He only had like 1 year.
Michael Vick is low on the list. He should have never
Just kidding.
been in the NFL ever again.
Mine is Brian Dawkins.
I was going to say that. I also was
He's
going to
top.
say Saquon just because Penn State and Super Bowl, and yeah, love that he came to. But both of them spent most of their career elsewhere. So Dawkins is a true Eagle. But T.O.,
I'll tell you what.
I love.
Steve, we met Dawkins, right?
I know, yeah.
He came to
South.
He came to South.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got to meet him there.
I know.
Yeah, I saw him at LA Fitness once too. I didn't say anything, but
Yeah, we got a whole presentation.
All right. So I do
about
have some
all
real
of his
estate.
friends. All of his friends got into drugs and died, and he decided to stay sober. and
Yeah.
not do drugs.
I do have some real estate questions though. And there's no like they're kind of all random, but do you guys think about diversification in your portfolios? Because I think you guys are pretty much like, well, no, actually, that's not true. I'll just let you answer because I know you have 401ks. But what are your
Tommy,
thoughts?
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Answer for us. I like this.
well, I think I am. I would say I fall somewhere in between you and Tommy. My like net worth right now is actually almost 50-50 stock and real estate. And that's because of my 401k, which I've continued since I graduated to put in a pretty high amount. I don't think I've ever maxed it out actually, and I've actually lowered it recently. But just because I started at 23 and I've still continued to do that, me and Danielle's 401k is about half or about the same to all of our equity in property. So I feel like that's already pretty diversified.
So you're
I do
50% stocks, 50%, or at least I don't know but you're 50% 401k and 50% real estate.
Yeah. In terms of total net worth, yeah. Now, I do want to get a little bit of cash before I continue to invest in real estate. So I would kind of want to get like an emergency fund, but not necessarily diversify. No, if I want my net worth to actually be more than 50% real estate. So I would rather go more towards real estate than I am right now.
I was going to let Steve keep answering for us. That's what I thought was good.
Well, no, what I was gonna say is you guys always are like 100% real estate, but I realize that's not true because you have 401k.
Yeah, so I have a 401k still, and that's kind of the reason I'm against them to some extent because I look at all the money I have in there and I know what it's going to grow to, but I just resent like a lot of the tax issues. So I switched my 401k to a Roth a couple years back so that I wouldn't have to pay the taxes later. I'm paying it, now, but I wouldn't have to pay it later when it grows. Like I can pull it tax free. So I thought that was an added benefit. But like you kind of hit something earlier when you talked about like Coast Fi and like or Coast Fire and like I'm not 100% there by any means, but I've definitely hit like partial level that I felt like of that where I was like I just had so much money invested in my 401k. I was like I feel good with that. And I did have some money in stocks and like we just had, a lot of like I lost a job and like I had a lot of things I went through. So I ended up tapping into a lot of my stocks. I was getting a lot of money buying in the Comcast stock. I would get it up 10% or 15% off. But I just realized like if I had my 401k set, like I'd rather put almost everything else I can into real estate and try to just build up that monthly cash flow, it's small piece by piece. But like to me, the more I can build that up, the quicker I can retire, whether that's 40 or 45 or 50, like that's my goal and that's like what I want to get to. But that like nothing else is going to get me there quicker. And like I'm very aggressive. And that's like when I'm listening to you talk about your portfolio, I'm like, how can I get Steve to be more aggressive and put more, into his brokerage so he can retire sooner? And like that's what fires me up. And so I'm putting a lot of my money just how can I reinvest it back into real estate and try to, grow my cash flow.
Yeah, I would also add probably one difference between me and you is like there's no scenario where you'd ever tap into your 401k. And I basically just look at my 401k as like a shit hit the fan fund. Like it allows me to do basically not risky, but like real estate as a whole is kind of risky a little bit. And it allows me to do that comfortably, knowing that at the end of the day, and I did say there's a scenario where I lose it all, and that's still true. But like at the end of the day, realistically, if I have like an expense that I can't cover, I don't know, I could sell a house, but also I'll text you and ask you for 20 grand, but if you won't give it to me, like I'll just pull it out of my 401k. And like that is my backup plan. And honestly, that's not the end of the world to me. Like hopefully I don't have to drain the whole thing, but like I just look at it as like a savings. And on a day to day, I forget that it's there. But like if something catastrophic happened in real estate, then like I'd have no problem pulling some of it or maybe taking a loan or whatever. But like,
Yeah.
I'm not scared to use it for real estate. And Tommy has twice.
I have taken the 401k out,
All
the
right.
401k loan out twice, and then I've just recently paid it back. So I'm always shuffling, but like I just refied, like I have some money sitting aside right now, and it's tough because I just want to buy real estate with it, but I have been debating like should I just throw a little bit into the S&P 500 to build back up a brokerage because like I had one a while back, and then I was going, lost my job and ended up selling most of that and used it to buy a different house. So
Nice. All right. This one can be quick, but how many hours a week do you guys, would you say, and I'm obviously it's different every week, but on average, like how many hours a week do you guys work on real estate? Not thinking about it, but even if you're doing stuff
Yeah.
on a computer, making phone calls, working, like, where, yeah.
So I think it ebbs and flows when like, because we're not in a position which we want to be, but like where we're constantly looking to buy. And right now, like I bought my house. Well, I mean, do you consider like remodeling the bathroom, working on it? But take that aside, like investing only, like right now, the podcast, which obviously if I wasn't investing in real estate, I wouldn't be doing this. Looking on Zillow, but like management stuff, probably like 5 hours a week right now, maybe less. I don't know, 3 to 5. But like I'm not actively looking to buy right
Yeah.
now. Right after I bought the property in the Poconos, probably like 10 hours a week easy for 2 to 3 months. And then I'm in like a low area right now where I just don't have the money. Granted, people would say I should still be looking anyway, and they're probably not wrong. But right now, I'd say 2 to 3. When I'm looking, 5 to 10 a week.
it's tough. It's a tough question to answer in some aspects because like when you love doing something, like it doesn't really feel like you're working on it. So sometimes like I'm working on real estate, like I don't even realize it because like I'm just naturally wanting to think about it, or like I'll just find myself in our spreadsheets calculating, what our cash flow's like, what it's going to be like next year. Should we refinance? Should we not? Like, so I'll spend more time like almost just getting lost, like just checking things. But I had a property manager for the last not 6 years, maybe 2.5 to 3 years. And I was doing a lot less from a day to day perspective. I mean, I would talk to the property manager, but he handled a lot of like the other communication. We're letting him go here at the end of this month. And so my life is going to get a little bit busier, taking on the management of kind of 9 properties, but I'm excited to get like a couple extra dollars. I'm going to start like paying ourselves a little bit out of the account so we get some cash flow. So I'll maybe be paid for some of the work, but I think Ty's 5 to 10 hours is probably pretty standard. Sometimes it's less though. Like when I had the property manager, I wouldn't think about real estate for weeks at a time,
Yeah.
unless if something came up.
Nice. And the reason I asked that's kind of obvious. Like our whole conversation, like I spend 0 hours a week on the real estate, or like, but like I spend 0 hours a week fixing my stock's bathroom. Like I just don't do it. What?
Yeah, and I forget, like, I also, like, we join a real estate call once a week, right? I met with somebody on Saturday, for 2 hours. We got coffee. Would I have done that if I wasn't like I met this guy through real estate? It was like a networking thing, so that's like 2 hours. So like to your point, Tommy, it's like I also liked meeting this guy and talking about real estate. I
Yes,
don't
you
look
don't
at
even-
it
Yeah.
as like work, but now like
this
getting an
podcast doesn't
Airbnb,
feel like work. Like it's fun. You know what I mean?
well, the editing does.
Well,
But like getting the Airbnb short-term rental permits, that's work. Like that is a pain in the ass. There's definitely portions of it. Oh, anything to deal with the bank is work. And actually, like you asked me, I'm thinking about more and more because I'm closing on a HELOC next week, and I've done probably 3 hours a week for the last month just to get this HELOC, and I hate it. So I would say 5 easily now that I'm kind of thinking about, and that's 5 in like a lull of not looking to buy. What else?
but you did make that point, Steve, earlier that you're still checking the market and paying attention to the market. So I'm sure you're putting a couple hours a week into, learning about the market.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I don't even view it. I do watch, or I consume a lot of finance material, whether it's podcasts or books or YouTube videos. And like, I don't even view that as work. But although I guess you could say technically that it's not working, but it is me learning about how I'm doing what I'm doing. And yeah, so I guess I could see
I mean,
that.
to be fair, like when we're learning about real estate or doing something like that we deem fun, that's probably not work, right?
Yeah.
But when Ty's trying to get his HELOC paperwork and loan documents for 3 hours, like that feels like work, and that is a pain in the butt. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of similarities to like it's just fun for us, and that's a point that you've made. Like we're passionate about it, and you can see that, like that we like doing it. So we're doing that stuff where it doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah, another question I have, like something that does not seem like fun to me, and I don't know like what exactly the question is, but like, well, I wrote this, I'll just say, is real estate still worth it when you have so many expenses and fixes for your houses? And I know that obviously you could probably buy nicer houses that have less to fix, but like you guys, for example, like I kind of alluded to earlier, and you talk about it openly on this pod, like you'll have a $5,000 expense here or a $10,000 there, and obviously you're not doing that every month, but like it seems, like I said, it's a lot more like $5,000 and $10,000 expenses than I've ever had. So like, does that ever worry you guys? How do you like calculate that into your like bottom line, or like, I don't know, like to me that's something that I definitely don't. I actually make this joke that like, Ty, after you and Brad bought your house, like it's made me so much happier that I'm renting, because it's like every weekend you guys are like, oh, I'm doing this at the house, I'm doing that.
Well, okay, so a couple things with my current house. I don't have $5,000 fixes. I'm upgrading it to sell it for more money. So like I'm doing like a live-in flip. So every $5,000 that I put in, I hope to get back $10,000 in 3 years. It's not like my HVAC unit went out and I had to buy a new one, and so like functionally I'm just out 10 grand. It's like I'm replacing my bathroom, which hopefully I'm spend 10 grand and it raises the value of the house 20. But and primaries are kind of different, but from an investment perspective, yeah, I mean you listen to some of the recent episodes with like Tommy's mold and stuff, but when you calculate when you calculate a rental, you add 15% of rent to capex and maintenance. So like you're not actually setting the money aside, but let's say your rent $2,500, you set aside theoretically $250 a month over 10 years. There's your roof, your HVAC, whatever. So one, you calculate it going into it before you buy, and then two, I would just say that maybe it seems like Tommy's had a few of these like back to back to back, but I would say the more you have, the more rentals you have, the more it would just average out to be that 15%, right? And so yeah, if you have 100 every 30 years, you're spending 20 grand on a roof, but as long as you factor that into your calculation and you're still getting the 10% plus ROI, then I definitely think it's worth it. I mean, yeah, you could definitely buy just bad deals and you're going to lose money.
Yeah, I think one thing that Steve is not picking up on, like, yes, there's expenses that come up, but we also make money. It's not like we don't make money, right? Like we're saving some of this money that we've made over the lease. Like for the most part, and I'm trying to change this now, but I'm trying to keep like 5 grand per property as a reserve. And so that's, times nine, that's almost like 45 grand liquid between my different companies. And so that will typically pay for something. So it's not like coming out of my own pocket. Like I don't want to be like, oh, I have to put 5 grand. Like I have five in a bank account saved for that specific property. And then we're going to start adding like $200 to $300 on top of that, like per month. You know what I mean? And like keep growing that. And like for the longest time, I mean, like TDJ, for example, was making like an extra $2,000 a month. So you're getting 24 grand a year. So if you have a 5, 10, $15,000 expense, like you can kind of eat it with the cash flow that you're getting as a company. So a lot of it is just eaten up by like the cash flow that you can make. So it's not typically that you're putting a lot of your own money in. You start with strong reserves and then you try to like run it like a business and prepare for certain expenses that are going to come up. And it's not like we're running broke and like we're just keep
Right.
throwing this money in there the way that like
Yeah.
it is portrayed. We do have reserves for it.
Yep.
I think that's why a lot of people like the Burr method, because one, you recoup a lot of your money so you can repeat it. But if you renovate the whole house and then rent it out, you kind of know that you're not going to have any of those big expenses for a while because you renovated the whole thing. But I personally have not had like any big expenses come up after like the place was rented or settled. I did redo a bath, just the bath part of the shower last year at a property, and it was like $3,000, and that sucked. But I haven't had anything more than that. I think that was my biggest expense so far.
Yeah, I guess I'm also like you were saying, Ty. I was kind of confusing fixing rental properties versus like investing and making your properties better. So I wasn't really thinking at it from that perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah,
typically.
because I have bought this place, and then every extra dollar that I have, I'm reinvesting back into it. And if I sell it for what I bought it, then yeah, I'll be not happy. That'll be a bad investment, and I sunk a lot of money into it. But I hope that I sell it for like 200,000 more than I bought it.
Yeah, but in general, too, a lot of repairs to a property, that if you're doing something, you typically hope that you're going to get that money. Like for me, remediating mold for 7 grand, it's probably just a sunk cost. It's not adding much value to the house, right? But I do think there's a huge separation between like a primary residence and like Ty's doing a live and flip, which is almost a really strategic way to make a lot of money on your primary residence because like you have to live somewhere. But then there's a difference between like having rental properties and like what we do over there. And like, there's also something to be said, like for your master bath that you're doing, it's something that you and Danielle want. Like your bathroom's gonna be something that you're gonna enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you get some metric of happiness from doing it,
Well,
but
I'm sure Danielle will get a lot of metrics of happiness. You maybe not, because you'll just look at the dollar signs the entire time. But
That's funny. I'll just ask one more quick one, maybe.
yeah, go
Or
for it.
probably not. But what? Just to kind of round it out, what are your guys' goals over the next, like short-term goals over the next 1 to 2 years in real estate?
you want me to go?
Hmm.
This one I struggle with, but it is to get like some resemblance of a savings. My problem is every time I do that, I then go look at real estate and buy something, and I'm left with nothing after that. So I need to, because to your point, like the opportunity cost, I start to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, I have 50K. Like I need to buy something so that I don't miss out on appreciation, and like, you know what I mean? So that's like my biggest goal, is to like get an emergency fund. Now, I mentioned a HELOC. I You're gonna think this is really risky, and I told Dad I felt this way this weekend, and he was like, "You're crazy." But like, I think of a HELOC as an emergency fund. So it's there. I have a credit that if I wanted to, I could transfer 20 grand to my bank account tomorrow. It's debt. I'm borrowing it, but like, I think of that as like if I need money quick, I'll sell it, or I will use that.
Yeah, I mean, you opened up yourself a quick line of credit, basically. And what's your interest rate on it?
Well, you don't pay until you draw the money. So that's the way a HELOC works. So you'll have like a line of credit for 100,000. I'll probably have like 50K on it, and then I have another 50K left over. And so at any time I could pull that 50K and start paying the interest. And again, it would cover me in the gap of like, if I had to sell a property because I needed money really bad, that at least gives me enough money to be okay until that property closes and I get the money from that property or whatever. But
It is interest only. It's interest only, so it'll be a little bit cheaper of a payment. It might be like 8, 9, 10%, but it's still interest only makes it a lot cheaper when you borrow the money.
Mine's actually, I have one for 6.75 and then my new one's like 7.25. So they're not that bad, but they're all adjustable. They follow prime. But anyway, and then I mean, me and Tommy definitely want to buy a property. I would say in the next 12 months. We haven't really made a goal together yet, but
Yeah, Ty and I are working on doing a podcast episode for our 2026 goals. We just haven't gotten there yet because we were a little bit delayed in getting the pod started. So we're going to do an episode about that and maybe talk through what we want to buy. But we do want to buy something together. I don't really think I want to buy anything by myself right now, just because putting 20% down by myself is a lot. Splitting 10% of that with Ty makes it much more affordable. I've been really stabilizing my portfolio is probably the best way I can word, but it has been my goal. So starting in June, I'm going to get my new leases and everything rented out for next year, and my rents have all gone up, and so really just having a stabilization period that I'm looking forward to. Like my properties, the debt's finally like a little bit less expensive than it's been, and did some refinances, and so really just trying to put myself in the best position to have like a good floor and then start growing again from there. But then also Ty and I have like debated this a little bit, and you probably heard this on the podcast last time or last episode or 2 episodes ago. I want to start paying myself, and I touched about it a little bit earlier, but just like an extra couple, 5, 6, $700 a month to come into like my personal bank account from the real estate. So to your point of like putting time, effort into it, like I want to see some of that cash flow today, and whether that can be like me taking Sarah out to dinner or like whatever we want to use that money for, something additional going into my account today, like trying to show me like what it's going to look like in the future. And I'm hoping that that's like, hey, this 500 is nice, like if I buy another house, maybe it'll be 7, and see if that sparks any interest.
yeah, I do want to add one thing, and I know you agree, Tommy, because we talked about it before we started recording, but one of my biggest goals that I definitely want to stick to is buying a house that I can either burr or flip, and recoup some of the money quickly so that we can actually scale. Because I've in the past, like I've bought properties that I haven't gotten the money back yet, right? And then so you just go into this cycle of, all right, save 50K, spend it, save 50K, spend it, and that's not scalable. It's slow, right? Whereas like I did do one burr and I got half my money back, but that's half that you can put towards the next one, or potentially flip and uh just get more capital to buy more long-term rentals.
Yeah, the burr strategy is awesome. Ty and I definitely want to burr a house. Like if we found a property that was a good burr, we'd probably find a way to jump on it, whether we had money or not. We'd be asking people to give us money to let us go buy it, because
Like
it's like the
Steve.
most it's the most beautiful way to invest in real estate, because you spend 50 grand and then let's say you get 35 or 40 back once you refinance, and so you have a nice fixed up property, probably not too many repairs you're going to have to do, and you get 40 grand out to try and repeat it. um, but that is a question for you, Steve. Have you ever thought about being like a hard money lender or something to that extent, where you just give somebody, say, 50 grand, 75 grand, and then they pay you 10, 12%? So that's something a lot of real estate people look for. People like you that have money, and like it's a way for you to be diversified to some
Yeah.
extent in real estate, but then you're not. I'm not putting any pressure on you between lending to Ty and I, but more or less, like a lot of people that have money in the stock market want to diversify in real estate, and they get 10, 12 guaranteed percent, typically in 6-month time frames, to loan for a flip.
No, yeah, I'm definitely open to it. And like I said earlier, like I need to diversify and I want to. I'm still young, so I'm not as worried about it. But like the more money I have in my portfolio and the older I get, like the more I think about diversification. So whether that be through some type of lending or actually buying a house myself, I mean, it's definitely something I'll probably do. The hardest hurdle for me to do that is I have to sell my stocks, which is like, I know it's funny to say that, but that is the highest, or the largest hurdle for me to get into anything else is I have to sell, because I just don't do that, which is a way that you can, accumulate quickly. But yeah,
Do
I'll have
you
to get over
think
that.
you being younger than Brad, is that why you say that you're young? Because I feel old, and I'm wondering if it's just because I'm the oldest child, because we're
Dude,
the same age.
we're like hopefully 1/3 of the way through our lives. I don't think we're that old.
Um, yeah, I
That
don't know
even
why,
sounds
but
like a lot, though. A
that's what I'm
third.
saying.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
Ty's about to be 30 here
Well, let
too,
me put
so
it
he's
this
right
way.
with us.
Let me put it this way. Like, I graduated college 9 years ago. So I have, 40 years of making money. You could say that's what most people do, 40 or 50 years. Like, I'm less than 25% of the way into my wealth building journey. So, like, yeah, that's why I think I'm pretty young. And that is what I mean
Yeah,
by
and
that.
I agree. Same with real estate. When I said like I'm young and I don't care about making money from real estate, I just want to learn. I feel like even at 35, 39, I could still have that mindset. Now, if I'm 45, 50 and I'm still not making any money, then it's probably time to hang
Right.
it up. But like, yeah, dude, I think about that all the time. If I perfect it, but it takes me until I'm 40, and then from 40 on, I like blow it out of the water, then that's still really good. That's still young in my opinion. But
Or say interest rates drop to some extent and burrs become easier again. It's like, oh shit, like we know how to burr, we know how to refi, we know how to flip a
right.
property, we have
Yeah.
these connections in these areas, these bankers, and so like we're building up this credibility. So like when the market is ready for us, like we can just take off and run through it.
I don't see
Yeah.
any world if you guys are like 50 and you have like 30 or 40 doors. Like, I don't know. I don't see how you'd be like, yeah, you're not making money off of that. Like, I don't, is that even like, how would that even be
No, I
possible?
mean you'll make money over 25 years,
Because,
but
yeah, a lot of them are going to be houses you bought 20 years ago. Like,
will it have beat 10% over 20 years is the big question.
that
Could I
is the
have
good
sat on my
question.
butt and done nothing and made more money? But whatever, that's the risk. That's the gamble that we're willing to take. So I think it's worked out so far.
I will say this: if
Uh,
I had to guess right now, I don't know if you want to end the pod, but we could end it on this. If I had to guess right now, I would say that you are going to retire from your job before I do, which is not really fair because you'll still be working
I would
on
hope.
real estate.
I would
But
hope. I would hope so because of your point of time and how much time and effort and energy we put into
Right.
it. I would hope so. I'd say, yeah. I don't want to say it's inevitable, but it would kind of stink for me if I didn't, right?
Yeah,
Like if I
yeah,
put if I put this much time into it, yeah. So
yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, to your point, we'll probably be working in real estate, I think is the goal. It might not be full retirement. We might be managing our own properties at that point in time and like maybe ties an agent on the side or doing something else. But yeah, that would be the goal is to retire a little bit sooner. And like that's the beautiful thing in our opinion about real estate is you're trying to build up that monthly cash flow so you can live off it a little bit sooner versus getting 10 million in the stock market and then living off the 4% rule, which I almost feel like you could do like a 6 or 10% rule. I feel like the 4% rule like hurts that logic, and
No, they
I
are.
feel like it's
Have you heard that? They are saying that now. Like the 4% rule. I forget what it was. I think even the guy that made the 4% rule, he said that he made that rule as if like a lot of catastrophic things were happening throughout the next 30 years. And he was like, it's actually not
Mhm.
realistic. And I think I just saw recently that that guy or whoever did the 4% rule said it's more likely 4.7%. But there's a lot of like, that's a small change. There's a lot of people that say, like you said, 6 or 7 is actually a more realistic thing because apparently, like, when they do the math on it, so many people that if you have set yourself up correctly for retirement, most people are dying with like more money than what they saved. And they're like
Yeah, but
4%.
we're not as dumb as they put it in the 4% rule. The 4% rule is like, all right, so you have $1 million, you're living off of 40 grand every single year,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Well, it's like, all right, well, if it's a shit year and everything's
Mm-hmm.
expensive, like, guess
Yeah.
what? I'm not going to Europe. I'm not doing
Right.
this travel. I'm going to save a couple dollars.
Right.
So maybe I'll try to only use like, 20 or 30 grand or whatever. Like,
100%.
it's just, you're not going to continuously use that money. You're going to, and then like in the years it's a little bit higher, maybe you do spend more. But
I
yeah,
agree. 100%.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up there. Thanks a lot for coming on. We will have you back in 20 years and we can compare the stock versus real estate portfolio.
I'll probably still be working, so you'll have to we'll do it after work hours.
Pencil it into your W-2 job.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Sounds
Well,
good.
thanks, Steve. We really appreciate you coming on. I really admire that you are very, smart with your finances and that you're investing. Like that's the biggest thing we try to get people, with this podcast. Obviously, our preference is real estate, but anybody that can invest into their 401k or into the stock market, build a brokerage account, a Roth IRA, of Roth in general, just any type of investing instead of just spending all of your money and having credit card debt every month. Like that's what we want people to do. How they do it is completely up to them, but everybody needs to start investing because the dollar is going to keep losing value over time.
Yeah. I just realized I feel like a lot of your listeners are probably going to think I'm really stupid for a lot of the stuff I said on this pod because of, it's just, I'm just not. I mean, it's a real estate pod. I'm not invested in real estate.
I think so. I mean, we think everybody has some, everybody that invests in real estate for the most part has some personal finance, acumen. Like they've studied personal finance. They usually don't just get into real estate by being dumb and like, oh, I love risk. It's like, hey, I've researched as much as I can about other ways to invest my money, and real estate feels like the earliest way to retire, and that's how they get here. So they understand your point of view, and then they just have a little bit more risk that they want to do to try and retire earlier. So I don't think anybody's going to think you're dumb or stupid. I think you're very smart. I mean, you live frugally, you save 50% of your freaking income, go to Europe twice a year. Like you're doing a lot of things right.
Yeah. Well, you broke the record for longest episode, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't think that will be topped.
Nice.